Well, good morning and welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder, and this is BRN AM for Thursday, October 8th, 2020. And our top stories today, we'll check in with the teacher to see how virtual learning is going, and then we'll try our own best budgeting lessons. We'll actually have a real lesson from our teacher. Well, joining me now to discuss this and more is Abigail Titus. She's a middle school teacher with Pivot Charter School. Abigail, thank you so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be back.
Well, it's great to see you. And I know school is back in session. We wanted to check in this morning, at least in the first segment. How are things going in California with schools reopening? And you were already virtual, but give us the lay of the land.
Yeah, it's been a very busy year so far. My school was an online independent study school, but we were designed to have a site-based program where students would come and get assistance on difficult projects or receive services like special education and speech services. So this year has been a big change, like most traditional schools are facing as well. So a lot of the busyness and the kind of push in the first months here has been focused around getting students comfortable with virtual learning. And there's so much that goes into that that doesn't come to mind at first. Things like spending time with each student, teaching them what a browser is and how to log into Google Chrome, how to use different video applications, different curriculum websites, which each have their own systems and way of doing things. So a big thing a lot of our students are learning are fundamental skills that I think they'll be able to take with them in life, even though right now is a stressful time. Things like troubleshooting, patience, perseverance, and then tons of tech skills that they may not have developed this early on in another setting.
Well, I think you make, look, patience is a pretty important thing to have, especially in light of what's going on and being sequestered. Let me ask you, Abigail, how are the parents doing? I mean, you know, parents have been always typically been active in their children's lives in terms of education. Now they've really had to be front and center. How are they doing with some of the additional expenses and trying to support their children?
Look, I think there's definitely a lot more stress in the household than there has been previously, and it's totally understandable. Like you're saying, parents are really used to making sure their students are doing well in school and communicating with teachers, but never at this level, this intimate level. So, you know, there's good things that are coming out of that, and then there's struggles that are coming out of that. For a lot of parents that are working, they simply can't provide the support that a lot of young students need when they're doing schoolwork, especially on a computer. So there's an equity involved. Some parents are lucky to be home and to be able to essentially be a homeschool teacher in some capacity, at least in the structuring of now it's time to get on the computer, now it's time to get off and do this other activity, now it's time to take a break. For a lot of students, they need that outside adult support to have the cognitive process of going through a day in an organized way. And that's outside of the content that they're learning that they might also need more assistance with. But at the same time, I think parents are learning kind of more about what goes into their child's learning. They're figuring out, what their student goes through each day at school. And there could be a possibility that when this is all over, parents have all this knowledge. And when they aren't under the stress of this role they're in right now, they're probably going to be better suited to communicate with teachers and to help their students in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're being incredibly optimistic, and I think that's exactly what we want, people to take the positive things away from this. I mean, there's a lot of negative things, of course, in terms of health, in terms of having to dip in the time and support your child, but I think there are a lot of positives here. Abigail, one of the things that we were doing when we were talking to some of our contributors who are also parents, there's some additional expenses that come with virtual learning. I think you alluded to a little bit of this, but one of our contributors said for her twins, they actually, it was recommended that they don't have anything in the background behind them that could be distracting to either themselves or other students. So this particular parent went out and got them a green screen or a white background to ensure that things were very generic. Anything else that in terms of expenses that people are spending on that they should be aware of as this continues to go on?
I mean, there's such a variety of needs and just socioeconomic families out
Yeah.
there. Some families are struggling with the choice of if you have multiple young students. I know families who are struggling. Should a parent stay home and not go to work and take that hit? Or should they hire someone to be at home with their students during the day? So that's a huge additional expense. Some parents are forming pods of students where they will be in kind of like a chosen group of people that are isolating together in some ways so their kids can come together and be with one parent or one professional and groups of like 5 students. So that could be an additional expense. I think in most school districts, the technology itself is being provided, but other families, even if they've had Wi-Fi before, they need additional Wi-Fi, and there's capabilities to have like a boost on your Wi-Fi to make it stronger. And if you're working from home and you have students from home and there's video calls going on at multiple times. So that's another thing that some families are incurring the expense of, but some districts are providing that as well. So those are just a few of the things that families are having to look at.
And Abigail, we talked about the children, we talked about the parents, but let's not forget the teachers. And I know there was a lot of angst for teachers who had to go back into the classroom. How are your colleagues doing? Maybe they're doing virtual, but I mean, are there support groups? Being home and teaching children, that's isolating too. If you don't get up, take a walk, if you've got to do your job 8, 9, 10 hours a day, maybe the lesson planning. How are the teachers doing with adapting to this? I think there's some concern out there as well.
Yeah, there's a large variety. I mean, you have teachers who've been in the classroom for 25 years and are not experienced in technology. This isn't at my school in particular, but at other colleagues around the county who are really struggling to adapt their curriculum online. In my hometown, there's another model where students can elect to come to school. So there's about 15 students in the classroom. And then in the afternoon, you have another 15 students who are choosing not to come to the classroom. So those teachers are essentially doing 2 jobs, developing 2 curriculums to work for those 2 settings. And then those of us working from home, especially in the beginning of the year right now, there are a lot of extra hours that come into getting families and students comfortable with this new setting. And there is a little bit of what we call, I forget the official name, but essentially we're hearing the trauma of a lot of our students. And with 30 students and hearing about what they're going through, that can start to kind of cause some burnout. So my school, and I'm sure other schools, are talking about taking breaks on the weekend, which can feel hard to do when you're not quite ever caught up. And doing things like you said, going on a walk and self-care, not as a selfish thing, but as a way to extend our ability to be effective. And I talk to my students about that all the time, about how being on a screen for an extended period of time can start to have an impact on your emotions and on your well-being. And it's preemptive care to figure out ways to build in breaks and to do other things, even if that means that you are a little bit behind. And it's a difficult balance to juggle for all of us. And, in my community, we're dealing with other traumas as well. Last night, another fire broke out here. It's about 10 miles away right now. And so that's been a yearly occurrence for my students. And so I'm talking to them all day about, how are you feeling? Are you able to focus today? And if not, that's okay. That's normal, because we've gone through these. And some of my students are in evacuation centers. Some of my students are waiting for that call all day. And so the self-care takes on multiple meanings in this area right now.
Yeah, the roles of the teachers and the parents continues to expand, but teachers and parents are doing great work. Abigail, I want to go to a quick break. When we come back, well, we're going to try this. I've never done this on the show before, but we're going to have Abigail come in and teach us a little bit about budgeting, give us her hits and tips. So you're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms? Especially for the smaller businesses. I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
The windows on our homes, they protect us and the ones we love, but they do much more. At Renewal by Andersen, making your home more comfortable is at the center of every window we make. It's why we custom build our windows in America and install them in as little as 1 day. It's why we build our frames with exclusive Fibrex composite material that's 2 times stronger than vinyl. It's why our glass helps keep your home warmer in winter, cooler in summer, and quieter all year long. It's why we stand behind every window with a 20-year limited warranty. Why not help lower your energy costs while giving your home and family the best? Call 1-800-835-6525 to schedule a free in-home consultation. Buy one, get one at 40% off with this special offer. Plus, get special financing with no money down, no monthly payments, and no interest for 1 full year. Renewal by Andersen, the better way to a better window. Call 1-800-835-6525 now.
Welcome back. We're talking to Abigail Titus of Pivot Charter School. Abigail, thank you so much for staying with us this morning.
Of course. Happy to be here.
So we're going to try something that we've never done on the show before, but I've been wanting to do this for a long time. And we have a great teacher. Abigail, you're a great middle school teacher. We're virtual. We're connected by Skype. And I thought maybe for all the audience, including myself, and I need some help in this area, why don't we do a lesson on budgeting and budgeting tips? I'll be your student. I'll be the de facto student. And you lead us through maybe some tips and tricks for budgeting.
Definitely. So I think when we're thinking about budgeting, it can feel like a really big term that can be overwhelming. And so I think we should break it into a few simple steps that could help anyone at any point in their financial journey. So first of all, when we're thinking about budgeting, the most important thing we can have is data. And it's a really common human trait to underestimate the amount of money that we're spending and maybe overestimate the amount of money that's coming in. And so the first thing I think that is important when it comes to budgeting is to begin tracking. And this can be done in a variety of ways. And the best way to do it is the way that you'll stick to. So there's a lot of apps now that you can use. The one I use is called Mint, but there's tons of apps out there. You can also use just your bank will often have a budgeting tool to start to wrap your head around where you're currently at. And the great part about this step is that you don't have to make any changes yet. We're just trying to figure out where money's going each month and how much money is coming in. So that's the first thing I would recommend. And once that's done, you want to start to make goals. So you might have goals of paying off debt or saving more money or cutting back in different areas that you noticed you're spending a lot in. So after you understand how much you're making in each category each month, you can use those same kind of tracking tools to make a monthly goal for your expenses and to fit within those. And there's lots of general recommendations that you can find about how much you should be spending on housing, about how much you should be spending on fun, and how much you should be saving each month. And then once those goals are set, it's really about sticking to them. And there's different ways you can approach that as well. Some people take out the amount of cash they want to use in a certain budget for the given month. And once that's gone, that budget's gone for the month. So those are the things I would recommend just getting started with budgeting.
And Abigail, I'll ask it on behalf of the class. I'm going to raise my hand so you have to call me.
Yes, Jeffrey.
Okay. So does that mean if I budget that I have to exclude things that I really like? So for example, if I really like a bag of licorice once a day, does that mean that I have to forego licorice, or does it mean that I just have to make sure that I prioritize what is important in terms of my survival, my needs?
Yeah, I think in any time we can as individuals, anytime we can not restrict those things we love, I think we're more likely to be successful. It's kind of like dieting. If you tell yourself you're not going to have any sweets, you're just going to think about them constantly and end up having a ton of them in the near future. So it's the same way with budgeting. It's about making a plan and knowing the data of where that money's going. So if you're spending $10 a week on licorice and you're aware of that and you're tracking it, that's a whole lot different than not knowing how often you're getting it, how much you're spending, and feeling like at the end of each month, where did all my money go and how come I didn't get to save any? And you're going to find things when you're tracking that aren't really worth it to you. Certain subscriptions or certain times that you went out to eat that weren't a priority to you. And those are the things that you want to cut down on.
And would it help, like, for example, you mentioned subscriptions that maybe are superfluous. I mean, does it help to, for example, use Netflix? I'm not picking on them, but it's $8.99 a month. If you don't watch Netflix because, for example, you're attending virtual school all day long, well, should you do the math and multiply 9 times 12, think about what the savings on that would be, and then maybe put a portion of that into a bank account or into some other saving place that you will have money for later on.
Yeah, that's definitely a good way to think about it. And that becomes even more maybe pressing if you have certain goals that you want to reach in a period of time, like paying off student loans. You want to think, how much can I sacrifice in this moment in order to have a benefit down the road? So I personally, when I had my student loans, found a farm here locally that I could live on for free if I milked cows twice a week. And I did that. I couldn't have done that for my whole life. And just like someone can't cancel Netflix for their whole lives potentially, but I knew if I did it for 10 months, I wouldn't have any student loan debt. And so I think those little sacrifices, if you know there's an end to them, and if the goal is worth it to you, then you can cancel those things that you enjoy, but that you could live without for a period of time to reach a bigger goal.
So it's almost like, how do you eat an elephant? And I'm not advocating for eating an elephant. I'm just using this as a metaphor, but you eat it one bite at a time. So have measurable steps and realize that sometimes you're going to fall down, Abigail, and you're going to have to pick yourself back up and jump back into your plan. But it should be a plan that is manageable and in little baby bites so that it's achievable. Yeah,
definitely. And I like what you said about the making of mistakes, because there's been plenty of times that and I think everyone has this feeling. Sometimes there's opportunities that cost money and life's short and you're just going to go for it. But if that is the exception and not the rule, then you're probably going to reach your goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Abigail, I think I got to tell you, I think that this was a complete success. Really appreciate having you on the program. Thanks for, you work full time as a teacher. I think the last thing you probably wanted to do this morning is teach a 48-year-old, but we really appreciate you coming on the
it's
program.
What I do.
I know, but you would think, you're like, my wife is already educating me. So we really appreciate you coming on the program this morning. Thank you so much. Wish you and the students so much, and the parents and the teachers so much success. And we look forward to having you back very soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest or someone you think we should talk to? Drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the news in retirement, markets, technology, personal finance, and more, check out our newsletter, The Morning Pulse. So until tomorrow, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Are you being audited and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.